I'm Erin Boyle. I'm the marketing manager at Marquee 360, and I do have Mia Reed on the call with us today. Mia, you want to say hello?
Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining us.
And today we are going to be talking about premium plans in Planner. Just a quick intro. We are Marquee 360. We are Microsoft Project and Portfolio Management Partner in Cloud Productivity. We have been named Partner of the Year for the last 4 years in a row. We just work on your Microsoft 365 environment to get you the most out of your Microsoft tools you're probably already using, but might need some more functionality out of the box. And we do have our own PPM 360 tool, which extends all of your tools and brings you one connected platform to give you all the functionality you would need out of a full project and portfolio management software. But today, we are just going to talk about Planner. We did do a Planner basic plans webinar a little while back. So if you aren't familiar with Planner at all, that might be a good webinar to check out as well after this. But if you are already using it or your company has the licensing for you to be able to use premium plans, you are in the right place. All right, Mia?
All right. So what we're going to do, as Erin said, is focus on Microsoft Planner premium plans today. And if you attended our basic plans webinar, or if you're using basic plans now, you'll realize that there were a lot of really good features that have been added there recently. And what we're going to do today is kind of pick up where we left off, and we're going to talk more about those premium features. So what we're going to see is that at different levels, different ways that we interact with our planner plans, we're going to see those features come out. There are additional views that are available in the premium plans. So we'll get to see an interactive timeline view that is really nice for rescheduling tasks, ascending durations, and adding dependencies. We'll also look at baselines and the critical path, and then the assignments and people views. And within those views, we'll start to be able to see some of the other details that we can get to in the premium plans. So we'll be able to view things like the task history. That'll open up any task and show us everything that's happened with that task previously. So it makes it really easy to track what's happened with any given task. We can also add in advanced dependencies and custom columns and coloring. There are milestones we can add to the schedule. And of course, we can track goals. So that's where we're headed. I'm going to go ahead and share my browser window so that we can take a look. And the first thing that we'll just point out is that with Planner, there are a couple different ways that you can access it. Right now, I am just in the browser and I'm logged into Office 365. What you can do from here is open up your app launcher. You may need to go to more apps and then access Planner that way. So as long as you're logged into Office 365, you should be able to get into Planner. Planner, whether you're using the basic or premium plan, the Planner app itself is available through Office 365, and then the features that you have access to will then depend on what license you have. So just like that, we've opened up Planner in the browser. I do want to just point out that Planner is also available through Teams. So if you prefer to work in Microsoft Teams, let's say that I'm updating a project here and collaborating with Erin and Nirpa and Stella and other people in the group, sometimes it's easier to just go from here into Planner. So I keep Planner on my dock here in Teams, but if you don't have it there, you can always add it as an app. If you just search for Planner here, it'll give you the option to add it. But you get to Planner here, and just like we saw in the browser, all of those features are available through here. Sometimes teams will get Planner updates first, so it's a nicer place to work in Planner for some people. And then finally, Outlook also has a lot of what you can do with Planner. This is great also, right? Not everybody uses Microsoft Teams, but with Outlook, you can, of course, get your emails and your calendar and everything. But with the to-do part here, you get to see a lot of your tasks. So here, if we go over to My Day, that's the same My Day we would see in Planner. We can see our assigned tasks from different project plans, the flagged emails, and then of course the personal tasks that we create for ourselves. So those are a couple different ways to access Planner. And part of why I wanted to make sure that we start there is just that one of the benefits of Planner is how easy it is to use and access. When we're assigning tasks to different people and looking for those updates, being able to have those tasks easily accessible makes it a lot easier for us to get those updates on the tasks from the resources that are assigned to them. So we can access it in those couple of ways. And what we'll see here is that we navigate through Planner using the panel over here on the left side. So we'll do a quick orientation and then we'll jump in and start looking at plans. But you can see it's really quick and easy to create a plan. There's an option here, and we'll play around with that a little bit when we create a premium plan together. The My Day is the first option here. This will show me all of the tasks that I have that are due today. So any resource that is worried about their personal tasks that they've created for themselves or their assigned tasks can use this My Day to start out their day and make sure that they're focusing on the appropriate tasks. So this gives me a head start. From here, I can go ahead and open up a task and start to see more of the details. And then, of course, update my progress on this task as I work through it. There's a My Task section also where we can see all of our different tasks. Planner is really great with these different views, and this is a big thing that we'll see when comparing our basic and premium plans. There's a grid view with each version, a board view as well. And then it also has these different filter options. Here we can just click on these to see these different tasks. Right? As an owner of project plans, I'll see on the My Plans page several different plans here. These could be plans that I've created just for myself to track some personal tasks. It could also be tasks where I've shared this with a group of people and made assignments, and we're tracking sets of tasks together. There is also a portfolio option there, so you could track portfolios as well. We'll take a quick peek at those. It's really quick and easy to create a portfolio. I'll open up an existing one for now. And you'll see here that I've got a couple of plans that I added in. You can manually set your status for these plans. And then there's also a roadmap view where you can visualize where specific tasks from those plans are. All right, so that's a quick overview of our different areas over here. One nice thing to keep your most used plans visible is that you can pin them. So in the pinned section here, you'll see that the plans that I'm using quite often, I've got pinned over here so I can easily access them. All right, so I'm going to go over to create a plan. And the first thing I wanted to do is actually take a quick look at a basic plan. So you can see when you're creating a plan, you can start with a basic plan that you start from scratch or a premium plan. With these options, you're starting with a blank canvas, and then you go ahead and add in every task, every assignment, every detail of your project plan. You can also choose from templates. So Microsoft provides quite a few templates. What we're going to do today is we'll focus on just one template, the project management template. And we're going to just take a quick look at a basic version of this, and then we'll create a premium version together. Notice here, for comparison's sake, I did create one for us already. So you'll see project management basic is the basic version of this template. Now
Hey, Mia.
Oh, yes.
Sorry, you just got a little staticky. I don't know if it's better to not have your camera.
Yes,
maybe that'll help.
perhaps it is.
Sorry.
Give me one moment to turn that off. And then we'll see if that helps. All right, and thanks for that update, Erin.
No worries. You sound better now.
Good. All right, so we saw that when we are creating a new plan, we can choose a template, and we can choose if we're creating a basic version of that template or a premium version. And I've already created a basic version of the project management template from Microsoft. So we've got a couple of views here. Basic plans can now track goals. We can have a grid, board view. There's also a calendar that you can use for scheduling your tasks. So you can move these around to put in your due dates for different tasks. You can schedule that way. There are reports. As long as you have 10 tasks, you can use this to generate a report. And then there are also charts that you know where you are task-wise. With goals, these can vary per project, right? You just click add a goal, and then you manually enter in what your goal is. And that'll give you a chance to then connect existing tasks or create new tasks here. So the basic plan is very straightforward. Notice it started me out with just a couple of tasks here, not anything too crazy. It created some buckets for me as well, and even created some labels. So that's all great. Now what I want to do is look at the premium version of this, and we'll walk through some of those premium features. So if I go to create a plan, we're going to do the project management plan, just like the one that is on the screen behind this, but I'm going to choose premium this time. Already in the preview, we can see we get this nice timeline view. So let's go ahead and create that. I'm going to add a group here and then create that using the template. It only takes a moment to create. One of the first things you'll see, right, are the views that show along the top here. And with these, some of the views are new, right? Like timeline we didn't have in the basic plan. Same with people and assignments. So those are new for the premium plans only. And then some of the other views are just a little more enhanced. So we'll take a look at some of these views and look at how they are improved for the premium plans. First, with goals. Now we have the same interface here. I also do have a Copilot license that I'm using. If I go to add goal here, in addition to just being able to click add goal like we did with the basic plan, I can also type in what type of goal I have for the project, right? And it'll start to create those for me and generate tasks if I'd like it to. Right, so it'll track these different goals, and the goals for each project could be different. It could be that for some projects we have goals where we need to get approval at different milestones. It could be that there's security and compliance training. So these can vary per project. If we go over to the grid view, we have the grid view with the basic plans, but there's a lot more that we can do here. And if we just kind of start with the top, we can track baselines here. So if you go over to baseline, you can create a baseline and it'll start to give you spotlight information, the upcoming tasks. If there were tasks that were on the critical path that were in danger, it would list those for us. And then with the baseline details, it tells you just what it captured. Now, these aren't really task level, they're more at the project level, right? So we get general information on when we're starting. And as these dates increase, we will start to see that this will change from on track to red, and it'll tell us what the newer date is. So that baseline tracking can be very informative and helpful. We'll also see that there are a couple more filters here than what we have with the basic plans. One of the things that helps here is that we can also visualize our critical path. So this is a filter, right? So if we choose critical, what that'll do is it'll just show us our critical tasks. This will be a lot more useful once we have some more information in here and we start working on it. But this brings our focus to that critical section. I'll clear that. The other thing is that there's conditional coloring. If we want to track certain information, maybe if we want to track all tasks that are assigned to me, right, then we can choose a color that we'll use to track that. We'll keep this one. So now as I start to make my assignments, we'll be able to see more of that color coming through. Okay. And then that'll differ based on the other people that we do assign to these. So you can set up those conditions based on anything you like. The other thing with grid view is that you can create custom columns for yourself. So these are a list of all the columns that are preset. We can add these in here, including the goals that we talked about a little bit ago. We can also go to new field and define what field we want to add. So if I want to add a new choice field, then we get to name our field and then we get to put in our choices. These can be color coded also, and then you can really control what choices you add. So these can all be renamed. If we add these out of order, we can also adjust the order for these. I'm going to keep this very simple since we just have a short time together today. And then once this is added, we can go ahead and select our options. This is now going to be something that we could filter our plans by and use to view more data. Another really good thing about the grid view here that is a premium feature is that if we open up a task, one of the things that we can do is we can view the task history. Oops, history is here. So anything that's changed on this task, we'll have a running history of that here. So we get to see when that change was made, who made the change, and what the change was. So a lot of times once we really get deep into a project, it gets hard to know when something changed. This helps you to really keep an eye on that. As you can see here, when we open up a task, we can do things like upload our attachments. There are advanced dependencies also here. So with this, if we click on add dependency, we can go ahead and search for other tasks that we want to add. I'll choose that with a different task that has a more detailed predecessor. So you can see here, finish to start is already selected for this one. That came as part of the template, but you can also choose finish to finish, start to start, or start to finish. You can add in lead or lag time, and then you can also put in what that span would be. All right. So all of the great things about Planner that we've always had, our ability to add in labels and checklist item, notes for our tasks so that the person assigned knows what to do, that's all still here with both versions. Let's go over to, well, I guess here we have made an assignment. We can also start to do things like track our milestones here. So if we have a task that is a milestone, what we'll do is we'll update our effort to be 0 hours. As we start to work through this, a lot of times what happens with me as I'm working on this is that I have to start scrolling back and forth because I'll add a couple of columns in. Remember that you can collapse this section over here on the left to give yourself a little more room. So we'll see our start dates here. We can add in any of these other columns that we want. What I'm going to do here, make sure our milestone's in there. What I'm going to do here is now go ahead over to the board view. The board view is also a lot like what you're used to already. Keep in mind that the template that I used, it pre-created these different buckets for me. Because I chose a general project management plan, it did choose the general workflow stages. So it kindly put all of my tasks in the appropriate workflow stage bucket, which is great. But always know that you can type over these, you can color code these if you like that, and then you can always add new buckets if you need to. One other thing to note though with this board view is that this also supports sprints. So the way it'll work is that every task starts off in the backlog. And then as you are defining your sprints, what you'll do is you'll name the sprint, you'll identify the dates for that sprint. And then typically, if I'm going through my backlog, I might have some labels, some priorities set. I'll use those to filter out the tasks and then bring over tasks from the backlog into sprint one. Okay, so you can then build your sprints that way. And then when you're closing out this sprint and starting the next one, you would do the same thing. You add sprint, you define the dates for it, and then with your incomplete tasks, you can add your filters and then make sure that you're focusing on the tasks in the backlog that are important to complete next. And then you drag those into the sprint and you continue through your sprints that way. So that's something that's really great to have in this board view. The timeline view is not present in the basic plans, but it is in the premium plans. And it's really nice to view. It's really nice to interact with. What we can see here is, I'm going to widen this a little bit. But what we can see here is today is here with the red line. Each one of our tasks is listed here. So we added our milestone. It shows up like a typical milestone here. With this, you can choose how you interact with it. You could reschedule a task through here. You can also update the duration of a task just by dragging and dropping on the order of the task. And then, of course, with dependencies, you can click and drag to set up a dependency between two tasks. All right, so you get to do that here and visually see all these. You can choose a certain date, you can filter. One of the greatest things about filtering here is that there's an additional option. If you want to look at your critical path, you can just toggle that on. So instead of just filtering for the critical path like we saw in the grid view, this just highlights everything on the critical path. So that's one more way that you have visibility to make sure that you are staying on track with your project plan. All right. There are reports that are here. These are the same reports that we saw with the basic plan. And again, here, this is more of an AI feature than a premium plan feature. But what you can do is you can start to use this to select your reporting period. You can add more detail in here about what exactly you want in your report. And then you just click Generate Report. It will return a nicely formatted report based on the tasks that you have in your schedule and the progress with those tasks. I'm going to go ahead to charts, which also we had in the basic plan, but it's just a general readout about the tasks in our plan. There's also a people view that's added here, and it's like the board view, but enhanced. Right away, we're able to look at the people that are assigned to tasks on this project. We can choose to make assignments through this view, just by dragging and dropping, of course. We can also group these. Right now, if we look at these, we see that they're grouped based on the bucket, but we can group these by progress. We see that update. We can group by goal if we've got some goals identified, by priority label, so you can choose how that is. And now with each person, we also get a little highlights, right? How many are incomplete? How many are late? Right here, it's pretty easy to see, especially with this grouping selected. But as we start to have more tasks and more people, being able to see this is really nice. There's also an assignments view. Now, I see a lot of people that have used Project Online really happy with this view. If you are someone that's used Project Online, this is a lot like your task usage and resource usage views. So there are a couple of controls at the top. You can select your date, your time frame here that you're looking at. You can also choose if you're grouping this by resource or grouping it by task. So now we see each task in our schedule, we see who it's assigned to, and then we see the number of hours. If we needed this to be a task, let's say, let's go over to group by resource. Let's say that we needed to break this out so it's 4 hours this day and 4 hours this day, right? We can, of course, update the dates in our other views, but we get the ability to type into these columns and really fine tune how these tasks are spread out. Right, so I'll just make this one a 6, but you can interact with this view. And then maybe you don't want it daily. If you want to do weekly, how much time somebody should spend per week, you can do that. Then you have these other options here as well. All right, so with these, there are, with the basic plans, everything that we need to create a plan and track tasks and assign them and get updates. We can track all of our tasks there with the basic plans, but to really get an enhanced view and enhanced insights into our project plan and really make sure that we're able to add details that the team can work with to help them complete their tasks and details that'll help us with reporting and making sure that we're aligned with our goals. There are enhancements in the premium plans that allow that. Now, we are, of course, focused on Planner, and Planner, the whole goal there is related to tasks, right? So we have all of our tasks in here, a little bit of portfolio management. I do always just want to share that if you need anything more than task management, if you need to manage resources, for example, we do extend Planner at Marquee 360. We've created a tool called PPM 360 that allows you to track everything that you would need in addition to tasks. So that includes project requests and an intake process. That includes portfolios and programs, also resources, resource planning with our new engagements feature, and then of course, reports. We have timesheets as well for if you need to track time through timesheets and have approvals and items like that. And then I also just wanted to add that we have, let me do this quick sign in so we can at least get a visual of resource planning and what that looks like. But we have all these different options that could be added in this modular solution. If you need to see more of that, we'll be happy to show you a demo. With the reports, if you do just want to use Planner and you need reporting that goes along with that, we also do have a report pack that works with Planner. So that way you can review your plans and get insights there. But if you want to take this view where you're able to look at all of the plans and see where things are, the Planner report pack really helps there. So you get to see your resource assignments and get an idea if people are over or under allocated. And you really get to make sure that you're, having the insight that you need to make informed decisions as you work on your projects. All right, so that was a quick overview of the premium plans. I'm happy to stay on if anybody has any questions that have come up about anything we've talked about or anything else you're curious about. And then if you want to contact us, our information is right here.